everyone, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today's video is one of a 5-part series that you guys have been asking me for a lot, and I'm sorry it's taken me so long to do it, but there's been a lot of writing involved with this and a lot of research, and I just want to give you the best possible product basically here. But what we're going to do, this is going to be a BJD Basics course, and it's going to be 5 parts. Now, before I start talking about it, I do want to say that I don't necessarily consider myself a BJD expert, particularly in the realm of company BJDs. Most of my BJDs are artist BJDs. I do kind of consider myself an expert about artist BJDs, but if you hear me say something about a company and it kind of makes you raise an eyebrow, just know that's my, that's my disclaimer ahead of time. I don't really consider myself to be an expert in company BJDs. So with that being said, I want to talk about the 5 parts of this video, what you can look forward to, and be sure to subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss the other parts if you're really interested in seeing them. And make sure you like this video, and shares are very much appreciated. Every like, share, and comment on my videos really helps the channel and helps the YouTube algorithm recommend my content to others. So the first part, part 1, is going to be acronyms in the BJD world and anatomy of a BJD. Part 2 is going to be where and how to buy legit BJDs. Part 3 is going to be cleaning and maintaining your BJDs. Part 4 is going to be wigs, eyes, and clothing, sizing, and where and how to buy. And part 5 is going to be my recommendations for a starter BJD, plus I'll give you a list of artist recommendations of artists that I've used. So for starting out, this is going to be part 1. So ball jointed dolls have been around for a very long time. There are lots of examples of antiques and older BJDs even that you can search on the internet to find. I do not have one of those older BJDs. I have seen them. I've got friends that collect antique dolls, and they have some beautiful French and German ball jointed dolls. There's some really beautiful Japanese ones, but I'm not an antique doll collector, so I don't have any of those to show you. For the purposes of our discussions, we are going to talk about contemporary BJDs, and I think that's what most of you are asking for anyway, because my channel doesn't really focus on antiques. It has more of a BJD focus, so that's what we're going to focus on for this series. So in today's BJD world, in the contemporary world of BJDs, the generally accepted traits of a BJD are that they are strung. And so we're going to use Minifee Chloe here as an example. The stringing is this elastic that strings the parts of the BJD together. They are made of resin, so that's the material. Resin is a type of plastic, but it's very durable and it has more of a porcelain feel to me. Different resins have different properties. Some resins feel more like porcelain, some resins feel more like plastic, but it's very durable. So it's you can kind of hear the tapping, how that sounds. It's not like a soft vinyl, it's a very durable material. They have ball or peanut style joints, which we'll talk about a little bit more later. And the joints are, of course, the areas where there can be movement. So we've got different joints in dolls. Most dolls have at a minimum a shoulder joint, elbow and wrist joint, and then a knee joint. So we're going to talk, like I said, though, more about that in a little bit. They have changeable wigs. So BJDs are never rooted because the resin material is really too hard to root. I don't think it's even possible to root resin. Maybe it is, but resin's just very hard, and so that's one of the great things about BJDs, though, is you can customize your doll to however you want. So, for example, this is my Minifee Chloe, and she's had every hair color in the rainbow pretty much, because that's what's cool about them, is you can change that hair color. Most of them have changeable eyes, but not always. So Chloe, of course, has changeable eyes. And the way you change the eyes on a BJD is inside the head. You've got, there's basically the eyes. You put the eyes in and you secure them with some sort of putty. Now, I have one BJD with painted eyes. This is my little darling BJD, and she has painted eyes. Everything else about her is traditional BJD in that sense, but she does have painted eyes. There are a few artists that do painted eyes for their BJDs. Poupées Sisters is the one that comes to mind first. They do have a BJD, several BJD molds that you can order with painted eyes. I don't have one of those because I really like the changeable eyes. But, you know, when you have a great artist like Magali Dawson who did this girl, the painted eyes are really beautiful. It just takes away one of those levels of customization. So, but for the most part, they are going to have changeable eyes. Now, let's talk about the anatomy of the BJD. So we kind of talked about it already, but we're going to talk about it here. We're going to use Minifee Chloe as an example because she is a very common BJD. She's made by Fairyland in Korea, and Minifees are one of, like I said, they're one of the most popular, one of the most common BJDs, and she's actually the first company BJD that I got. I really like Minifee size. I like the look. I like the posability. I like pretty much everything about them. But anyway, so anatomy of a BJD. They're made of resin. We talked about that. They have elastic string, which we talked about, which holds the doll together. They either are going to have hooks for their stringing or they're going to have magnets. So let's talk about that. Chloe, for example, she's got magnetic hands. So I can just pull her hand off and there's a magnet there in her wrist, and that makes changing the hands very simple to do. But her feet are also magnetic. So you can see there's a magnet there which holds that together. There are dolls, however, that do not have magnetic joints, and they are usually held together by hooks. So I'm going to show you this doll. She's strong, but she's got a hook, you see the metal hook, that holds her pieces onto the, I guess holds it together with the string onto the body. So you've got some are magnetic and some are using hooks to hold the dolls together. Okay, talking faceplate versus head cap. So you may see things saying faceplate or head cap. Here's the difference. This doll has a head cap, so you can see her entire back of her head comes off, but the majority of her head and the part that's anchored to her body is her face is on that part. So she's got a head cap, where some dolls have a face plate, and how that looks is you've got the head, which is anchored to the body, but the face comes off. So that's the difference between a head cap and a face plate. There's really not, I mean, I don't see any advantage or disadvantage to one versus the other. The only thing with a face plate, it's a little bit easier to send off for a face up because you just have to remove the face and send it in rather than remove the whole head. But generally speaking, dolls that have head caps, their heads are pretty easy to remove too. So like for Minifee, you just twist this key and the head pops right off, and so you can send it off for a face up. So that's the difference between a face plate and a head cap, and you may see that terminology used when people are talking about BJDs. So now let's talk about peanut joints versus ball joints. So one of the things that you may see people say, they may talk about peanut joints. And the reason that is because actually most joints are peanut shaped. They're not ball shaped. Because if you had a joint that was just a strictly, if it was just a ball, you would not have quite the range of motion that you really have with the dolls that we have today. So I want to show you my Mamoni K. She has really amazing joints, and you can see the shape of the joint is definitely, it's not a ball. It's got this peanut shape, which allows for the leg to move and kind of fold over itself and bend. And so that's what we say when we mean, or that's what we mean if you hear somebody say peanut joints. That's what peanut joints are. Now I have a doll that has a little bit of a more simple jointing here, and I'm going to show you that. So she's close to a true ball. I mean, there's a ball in there, and then she's only single jointed. So let's talk about what single jointed versus double jointed means. Single jointed only moves on one point of the joint. So this doll only moves at the top of her elbow. The bottom of her elbow is actually it is cast in. This does not move here. So this is a single jointed doll. The same thing with her knee. It only moves at the top of the knee. It doesn't move at the bottom of the knee. Where you've got a doll like Mamoni, who she is double jointed. So her elbow has a double joint that moves here. You can fold it over itself and do all kinds of things. And like I was showing you with the knee joint, it's double, so it moves at both ends of the joint. So that's the difference between double jointed and single jointed. I have a lot of dolls that are single jointed. I have a lot of dolls that are double jointed. I like both. Double jointed dolls, of course, you can do more poses with them, but there's single jointed dolls are a lot of fun too. Like I guess I don't discriminate on one versus the other. I do slightly prefer a double jointed doll, especially in the knee. I love to have a double jointed knee because it's really amazing to have that. So now that we've gone through that, let's talk about some acronyms. Alright, talking acronyms. Now, we've already, of course, said BJD a lot. That stands for Ball Jointed Doll. You may also see the acronym ABJD, which stands for Asian Ball Jointed Dolls. These are all Asian Ball Jointed Dolls. These are all from Fairyland. They're all from Korea. But you may see that as well. But, you know, BJD, ABJD, they're pretty interchangeable. I don't see many people using ABJD very often. But just in case you run across that, that's all it means. But one of the things that was most confusing to me when I started collecting BJDs was the sizing and how people refer to the sizes. So let's talk about that. There's the size SD. SD is a large BJD, like 60 centimeters or bigger. An example of that here, and I brought all Fairyland dolls so you guys could kind of see the difference. They don't fit very well into my light box, but you can see Feeple 60 is SD. Now the letters SD actually stand for Super Dolphy, and this stems back from Volks. Volks was pretty much the first contemporary BJD maker out on the market, and because of that, those names and those abbreviations sort of stuck market-wide. So SD, Super Dolphy, that's around 60 centimeters, could be bigger. I've seen even I shop on Taobao a lot, and I've seen some even bigger dolls, like 70 centimeters and bigger, and they're calling them uncle size, like big guy dolls. So that's just an interesting side note. I don't know a lot about that, but I'm just kind of throwing that out there since it's something I've recently learned about. Next, we've got MSD. So Mini-Fee is what would be considered an MSD size, which stands for Mini Super Dolphy. Now those are around 42 centimeters or about 16.5 inches tall. They are 1/4 scale. I forgot to mention SD is 1/3 scale. So you got the MSD at 1/4 scale. MSD is actually my favorite size to collect as far as ball jointed dolls go, but that is actually leaning a lot towards SD lately. But, you know, everybody's got their favorite size. So MSD is pretty much my favorite size. The next size is Yo SD, which stands for Yo Super Dolphy. And Yo means baby, apparently, in Japanese. I don't speak Japanese, so I don't know. But that's what my research has told me, that the Yo means baby. So it means Yo SD. They're around 26.5 centimeters or 10 inches tall. So Little Fee is an example of a Yo SD doll, and you can see her compared to Mini Fee and compared to the gigantic Feeple 60 here. It is a big size difference. So that's your Yo SD size. And then for the smaller size, people generally, I just see them call them tiny. So this is a Pookie Fee, also by Fairyland, and they're around like 8 inches tall, or 6 inches tall, sorry. They're 15.5 centimeters, and these are 1/8 scale. I forgot to mention Yo SD is 1/6 scale, but the tinies are generally 1/8 scale. Now they make them even smaller. You've got like your OB11 dolls and things like that, and I've seen people call some of them micro tinies and different things. But basically tiny is anything 6 inches and under. So that's what we're saying, or that's what we're talking about when we talk about tinies. Now, there's another abbreviation or acronym, excuse me, that you may see quite frequently, which is OOAK. So here I've got two OOAK dolls, and OOAK stands for one of a kind. Now you've got two different things that are one of a kind. You can have a doll that is one of a kind finished. For example, this amazing Hush that I've got in mint, she is one of a kind finished, because there are other mint Hushes out in the world, but this one is one of a kind finished by the artist, so she is a one of a kind doll. But you can refer to them, any of them, as OOAK, as long as it falls into one of these categories. My other one of a kind that I wanted to show you is my Siren. She really is truly one of a kind. There is not another Siren in this resin tone in the world. There was only one made in this Sunbeam Skin, and she's mine. Yay, I love her too. But she's truly one of a kind, because there's really only one of her in the world in this resin tone, in this sculpt. Now there's more of this sculpt out in the world, but just not in this resin tone. So that is what one of a kind means. So just kind of be aware of that. You know, a lot of people will paint a doll and they'll sell it as one of a kind, and it is one of a kind because they probably didn't paint another one like that, but that doesn't mean that the doll underneath is the only one in the world. So that's what that means. Now, let's talk about some BJD definitions and some things that I think would help you guys knowing kind of when you're buying dolls and when you're looking at dolls and when you see things that dolls are referred to. So blank means a doll is not painted. That means the face is blank and has no makeup or paint on it. I do not have a blank doll at my house right now to show you guys. But basically it's just, you see all this beautiful painting that's done on the doll's face. You know, that's done after the doll's manufactured. So if it's blank, there's no paint on it. So it's just a blank canvas ready to be painted with makeup. So that's what blank means. Nude means the doll is not dressed. So I see sometimes, and I'm in several artist groups on Facebook, and people, especially in the My Meadow group, this happens a lot. People are surprised that their doll comes and it's not dressed. Here's a My Meadow doll right here. This is my Avery. They see the pictures, the promotional pictures of the doll, and they think that's the doll that they're getting. But people have to keep in mind that most BJDs are sold blank and nude, especially if you're buying them from the artists themselves. They're usually blank and nude. Sometimes though, you can have the option of having a factory face up added, so that's up to you. The face up is the painting done on the doll's face. This is usually done with pastels and different paints. It gives the doll the makeup, the eyebrows, the lashes, the blushing, and sometimes other features like shading, moles, or freckles. So if you look at, oh, her hair just came off. If you look at her, you can see, you know, she was completely blank before. Everything that you see on this face, this texture, the color, the makeup, the eyebrows, the lip color, the nose color inside the nostrils, that was all done by a face-up artist, The Ugliest Wife, and that was done after the doll was completed. And so, you know, face-ups can vary from extremely complex, like hers, to you can have a more basic face-up with not a ton of features. An example of that, she's got some light freckling, she's got light lip color, blushing, and eyebrows. But, you know, there's all face-ups run, and then you can have something like this that's super creative, that you've got all kinds of cool stuff going on it. So there's face-ups run the whole gamut of, you know, styles. And most people, what they'll do is they find, if they do their own, some people do their own face-ups, so you can buy the supplies and do your own. Of course, I don't do that because I've actually done it once or twice, and it came out surprisingly okay, but I don't enjoy doing face-ups. I don't like it. It's like tedious for me, and it's something that I'm not interested in doing. So I'd rather just pay somebody else to do it. It's like cutting my grass. I don't like cutting my grass. My grass guy's actually here right now. So we pay somebody else to cut the grass because we don't want to do it. That's how face-ups are to me. I just don't like doing them. So that's that. Now, full set. Let's talk about a full set doll. A full set doll comes with everything, eyes, wig, and outfit. So for example, I have this doll, Avery by My Meadow. If I sold her as is, I could say she's a full set because she comes with a wig, outfit, and shoes. I'm not selling her, so don't ask, and she's got a face up. So she's a full set. But there's a distinction between a full set and an artist full set. So this is an artist full set. This came from the artist. Everything was designed by her and put together by her. So the full set that comes straight from the artist is an artist full set. So sometimes when you're out shopping, people won't say artist full set, but it could be. You may want to ask that distinction, like, is this an artist full set or is this a full set that you put together? So if you see Siren, she's dressed in a look that I put together for her. That did not come from her, from the artist. I actually do have an outfit for her from the artist though, but I don't have a wig or eyes for her from the artist, so technically I wouldn't consider her an artist full set, where this girl is an artist full set because she came with everything. So that's the difference between full set and artist full set. Mods. So what are mods? If you see the word mods, which you see a lot on BJD forums and things like that, mods are modifications that are done to the dolls. This could include widening the eyes, adding elf ears, changing the shape of the mouth, all kinds of things like that. So I'm going to show you, this is the only doll I have, I think, with mods, and she's had elf ears added. I bought her this way from a friend of mine, and she's had elf ears added. There's all kinds of artists that do really amazing modifications to these dolls, and they can be done with epoxy. They might carve them. There's a lot of different methods that they use to do modifications, but that's what, if you see the word mods, that's what that means. Now, recast. Recast is also called counterfeit or bootleg. Recast dolls are dolls which I do not support at all. We're going to talk more about them in the next video about where to purchase, but that's what the word recast means. They are counterfeit dolls. So if you see the word recast, that means it is counterfeit, it is fake. You don't want to have anything to do with it. I certainly don't, and I don't, you know, like to associate with that. A wig cap. So a wig cap is a cap that can be made of silicone or it can be made of other things, but a wig cap is something that helps keep the wig on. So this is a silicone wig cap that came with my little darling BJD. As a rule, I actually don't use wig caps because I just don't. They're not... There's nothing wrong with them, I just don't often use them, but a lot of people swear by wig caps and use them on all their dolls to help the wig stay in place and grip. Some people will also take a balloon and cut the end off a balloon and put that on their doll's head as a sort of wig cap to help hold the wig in place, so that's something you could do as well. So let's talk eyes and eye putty. You'll see people talk about eye putty a lot. There's different types that people use. Some people use blue tack. I use silicone earplugs like this. This is just the Walgreens brand. I like them because they don't get, as long as I've used these, they don't get melty and gross over time, where blue tack that I've used has gotten kind of like sticky and it won't come out of the doll's head. This stuff works really well, and it's, you know, obviously colorless, and it doesn't really leave any, it can leave a little bit of a residue, but it's kind of easy to get off. And you just use that to stick eyes into a doll's head. So, for example, I have, this is my tray full of eyes. You can see here, I've got a few more eyes in other places. But when you're going to change the eyes on a doll, for example, let's see, here's a doll with this little feet has a face plate as opposed to a head cap. You just, you know, can put the eyes in and out, and then you secure them into the head with putty, and so that's what that putty is used for. It's used for keeping the eyes in place in the doll's head. So that being said, that is eye putty. I think that's most of the definitions. Oh, there is one other, sueding. So when you suede a doll is when you coat the insides of the joints so that the doll moves a little bit better. All right, let's talk the last definition, which is sueding. And sueding is when the inside of the doll's joints are coated. Sometimes it can be with actual suede. Sometimes it can be with hot glue. And what that does, you might be able to see it here on my Tinder creation, is it creates better grip between the joints, and so you get a more posable doll. Most people, I think, actually do the glue sueding these days. I've hot glue sueded a couple of dolls myself when their posability has been really bad, but all it does is it just, like I said, it coats the inside of the joint, and you can see there, you can kind of see the glue in that joint there, so that it gets a better grip on the other joint. So that's suede-ing, and like I said, some people do it, some people don't. Some artist dolls come with it, some don't. It's just, that's kind of up to each artist. It's pretty easy to do yourself. I've done a video before on hot glue suede-ing, like a really lazy way to hot glue suede. So you can check that out if you want to see it, but that is that. So I think I've covered all that I wanted to cover in part 1 of this video. Like I said, if you like this video and you're interested in seeing the rest of the series, please make sure to subscribe to my channel so that you can be notified when the new videos come out. I'm hoping to get them all out by the end of July of this year. This is a more intense kind of video to make because I'm trying to fact check and make sure all the resources are correct. A great resource for this is Den of Angels online. It is an online BJD community and they have a lot of great resources. It's been around for a very long time, so you can find a list of acronyms there, and you can find all kinds of historical information, which is really good, and it also has current information. It's got a lot of FAQs and things like that, so if you want something more, check that out. I am also at the conclusion of the 5th video in my series. I'm going to make the slides that you've seen throughout this video, I'm going to make them available as a downloadable PDF. So if you stay tuned to the 5th video, at the 5th video I'll leave the link to that downloadable PDF so you can download that, and you'll have the slides if you want them to refer back to at any point in time, and they will also have links in them, so hopefully that will be helpful as well. But anyway guys, if you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye bye. I want to say a huge thank you to my patrons from Patreon: Lindsay S, Leah W, Jenny C, Doreen Z, Janice H, Mercedes W, Angela E, Cindy K, Bear Sunflower, Diane B, Kelly L, Cindy L, Susie W, Krista R, and Victory Ryan. Your support means so much to me and helps me continue to bring you great dolly content. For information on how you can become a supporter of this channel, please be sure to check the video description and see the link. Thank you.